Hi guys and welcome, gnembon here with another episode of Fun Farms, the series where I take one mob at a time and show cool farms based around some interesting game mechanics. Today it's Guardians time, probably the easiest mob to build a farm around, and likely because of that it's so easy to screw it up and have a very inefficient setup. So I've been working with Guardians for the past couple months and I went a little overboard with the farm, so I decided to chop the content into a few manageable portions. Overall, we will see a bunch of farms to suit various needs. So for today we have a simple one that's not too shabby, a practical one with a good XP mode and decent drops, and a fun one where we will dispatch the fishes in a fun way at the same time getting a few drops from them as well. And the main theme for all of them would be to keep most of the original structure of the monument intact. Most people typically remove the monument for the farm, but aren't they really magnificent? What we're gonna save for later is two different foci. One to squeeze maximum drops from these fishes, and second, to get maximum XP from them. But for today, we are keeping the monument. Before we build a guardian farm, we need to conquer it, to clean it up from the elder guardians. After that, we need to condition the environment for the farm to work properly. A few weeks back, I posted a short etude with a relatively early game strategy how to raid a monument. There are several key factors to it. First, we do not enter the monument as intended by game developers through the main entrance, but instead we break in with a blast using TNT by encasing it with blocks so it can blow up blocks underwater. Using slime blocks as the encasing blocks is the safest, because if you make a mistake you can break them easily even under heavy influence of mining fatigue. But if you don't have them, any old block would do as an encasing material, just be careful while placing it. I was also reminded by Gallia and Ilmango about a clever sand and TNT trick, which is definitely a faster method to get in, but in case you have a mistake you can't really remove the sand if you place it incorrectly. When TNT gets ignited, it removes the TNT block and turns into an entity. This removes support for the sand block which falls on the block below where TNT was at the beginning and solidifies as a block. This makes the TNT blow in the middle of the sand block, thus not in water. In all of these cases, since TNT blows in blocks and we are in water, we only take minimum damage from the explosion. We can even stand on it and we should take only half a heart. The TNT placement for the guardian in the top room, the penthouse, is straightforward. Almost anywhere would do the trick, but for the wing guardians we want to break in where the internal entrances to the wings are, which is just between these two blocks where the front wall meets the wing roof, because we could be almost 100% certain that elders will just be in front of us, regardless how the monument generated. This particular tip and a few others I borrowed from Nathan's Ryan's strategy to conquer the monument, which I highly recommend everybody to check out. After we blast the entrance to the monument, we can block all holes larger than 2x2 to make sure the Elder Guardian doesn't escape. Next point, and the first change with 1.9 to the strategy, is to use a bow, since Elder Thorns will not affect us if we use it instead of the sword. In 1.8, after a successful shot, Elders would retract their thorns for quite a long time, so we can finish them with a sword. But in 1.9 this time is greatly reduced, and using a bow all the way through is preferable. The biggest change to the strategy in 1.9 is the use of Invisibility Potion, the most powerful and underrated potion in the game in my opinion. In 1.9 there is a bug, I believe, where Guardians do not recognize players' potion effect, which is connected internally with the introduction of the feature where wearing certain mob skulls reduce detection rates for certain mobs. The new feature is cool and all, but I would rather have the Invisibility Potion working correctly. As a replacement for Invisibility Potion in 1.9, one needs to use all protection for armor and just tank it. If you would not hesitate in your attempts and follow this strategy, you should only lose a few hearts because the break-in is relatively quick. You will be knocked out back and forth though, so using slime blocks is actually preferable comparing to the sand method, as you would be able to correct your mistakes. But let's hope the Invisibility Potion bug will get fixed soon. Now comes the time to condition the surroundings, which consists of removing all the water in the monument area as well as lighting up all the caves and slabbing caves in the slime chunks around 128 blocks away from the player AFK spot. It's more work if we want to be at the bottom of the farm for XP, or less if we only care for drops and are willing to stay high in the sky. Lighting up the caves and slabbing the slime chunks is rather a simple step, especially that you will be likely totally surrounded by water and not many caves will be around you anyways. Removing water, on the other hand, is a rather tedious task, and everybody has their own opinion how to do it the fastest and the most convenient way. My preferred technique would be sectioning the area with 5 wide lanes and then placing sponges just below the water level every third block. This allows to remove in a relatively repeatable manner 30 blocks of water per sponge and reduces the amount of placed sand by half compared to using square sections. Now, another small tip from Nathan's Ryan's Ocean Monument series. The quickest way to check most possible locations for sponge rooms is to go to the penthouse and knock out 4 blocks in the corner of the room, as well as a block in the middle in the front. Those are the most probable locations for a sponge room in a monument, and you should be able to see them just by knocking these 5 blocks. The links to Nathan's monument videos will be in the description. Once we have conditioned the surroundings, we can start building our farms. Okay, I went a little overboard with it, but that's just empty edit. You just need to light up the caves and slap the slime chunks, it's sufficient. But let's first pay a quick visit to the testing world. Our target will be to design a flexible farm that would allow us to collect both drops in large quantities as well as XP. To achieve both at the same time, we will be using lava as the Guardian softening agent. It is not the fastest method to kill them comparing to fall damage, but allows to bring their health down relatively quickly, in a very compact space. There is one problem, namely, if we use 3 layers of lava, they are left with 9 health points, which is too much for an XP farm. It takes ages to burn them afterwards in a drops-only mode. On the other hand, 4 deep lava is too much, as it kills them in the exact moment they just swim out of it, which voids all their drops. What can be done is splitting this 4 deep lava layer into 2 layers, which are 2 blocks deep. This acts extra momentum in the middle of the lava, which speeds up their drowning and brings them exactly to 1 hit. And a 1-hit mob is much more useful than a dead one. Dropping them from a higher distance to a 4 deep lava works too, but brings them to 2 points of health rather than 1. We can let them die in fire, which would take 1 extra second, or kill them with a 4 deep drop, which would get rid of them a bit quicker. Or if you want to keep them for XP use, just drop them back to water. We could use then water currents to move them around, which wouldn't be possible using the fall damage as a softening method, as water would break their fall. Having 1 health mobs allow us to use a simple damage potions to kill them in one go and collect their XP. The simplest farm you can build to get Guardian's drops flowing would be just building a tank to hold water in place using signs, with 2 sections of lava and some hoppers to collect their drops at the bottom. As an extra feature, we can control water using dispensers, with an on-off switch at the bottom. Each dispenser creates a stream that covers 5 columns of water, so we don't need that many of them to cover the entire fish tank. Selecting an area between pillars in the monument entrance area allows us to keep the monument intact. The performance of such design leaves a lot to be desired, however with 4000 items per hour it will be a good baseline for improvements, so stay tuned for that. Now the practical design. Since we have 5 possible locations in front of the monument in between the arches to place these basic tanks after quietly removing a few blocks from the entrance area, which nobody would notice, we can place 5 of these tanks next to each other between the pillars. Since the fishes leave the area already at 1 heart, we can safely collect them with water and drop them to the central point. The fall doesn't have to be that deep to kill them, but we need an AFK location below the farm to be 24 blocks away from the closest point where the Guardians would spawn for the future XP option. They drop on hoppers and die. Their drops are then sent to these 10 dropper circuits, which will drop them to water streams, so the drops can be later collected and sorted. You might be thinking that 10 of them is a bit of an overkill, but trust me, we would need all of them at some point. So let's check how it performs so far. So on average, we'll be getting 26,000 drops per hour. Decent, but still can be improved. We can notice that the fishes are struggling to get through the opening at the top, however, we know that they would die up top anyways if we didn't have this water to push them to the central location. If we remove the water, then drops will not get collected, unless we replace the entire flow with hoppers, but that's not the best idea. What I did is I removed the water in the middle and placed dispensers with water on both sides of the collection area. The floor is made of ice, and I knocked up these 4 blocks in the corners. On the redstone control part, we have a signal line on each side that triggers all the dispensers to the slabs on either ends. Slabs allow the signal to go only one way. What it does is if we send a pulse to this line here, it goes twice to the dispensers, first time directly and then through this line of repeaters, meaning that they create this quick flush of water that rinses all the drops to the center chute. What we have at the bottom is a hopper clock that creates a short pulse every 3 minutes or so, which makes sure that none of the drops will despawn on us. Ice helps to flush the drops more quickly and reliably with a quick water stream. Some Guardians are gonna be caught and extinguished by the water, but because they flap around, they will quickly find their way down to the chute and die. This poses a slight problem in measuring the performance because the drops stay for a bit and their counting is delayed, but that just means that we need to AFK a little bit longer to get a reliable metric. In this stage, the farm produces 42,000 drops per hour. It's better, but still can be improved. The next improvement is to do with the way guardians sink in water. If they fall down next to a wall, they do it twice as fast. Also, when they spawn on the surface of the water, it takes them quite a bit of time to sink down from the surface block, so we want to prevent them from spawning in the top water block as well. Both things are actually quite easy to implement in our situation. To prevent them from spawning on the surface, we need to use a full opaque blocks just above the water blocks. This not only increases the chances of spawning from 5 to 100% because of the lack of sky access, but also prevents them from spawning in this top layer. To spawn in a particular location, Guardians needs water in that block, water below it, and a non-solid, non-opaque block above them. So for instance, here if we place a glass here, this will not only reduce chances for spawning in the entire column to 5%, but also allows them to spawn in this top block of water. If we replace the glass with a slab, for instance, this adds a shade, so the spawn chance is 100%, but still allow them to spawn in this top block. By using solid and opaque block, we can actually prevent them from spawning in this location. This might not seem like an important change, but believe me, the rates are much worse if you would use slabs and sea lanterns as a roofing material. Dispensers are fine since they are actually solid blocks. The other thing is the fact that all the water in the tanks should touch some wall to let them sink faster. And in this case it can be easily achieved by filling up two columns in the middle with some blocks. We should use transparent blocks in this case to prevent spawn attempts from failing in the pillar X and Z coordinates. With this step, we decrease slightly number of spawning spaces, but allowed for more efficient guardian droning, which actually increased the drops from the farm to 45,000 drops per hour. Can we reach 50k? Yes we can with this once more simple trick. Our last improvement has to do with the area where spawning can start, which influences spawn rates in the tanks. And for that we need to go back to the pack spawning procedure. So every time the game tries to spawn a few mobs, it selects a random point and from it goes 3 times in random directions for up to 5 blocks away, to spawn a pack of mobs which can spread even further away from the starting point. It selects a type of a mob based not on the initial spawn point, but where the first mob from a pack is attempted to spawn. This creates an interesting situation in the areas where different mobs can spawn in different locations. Let's look for example here in the front of the monument. Monument area ends right here where we cannot see guardians spawning anymore. So if we go 5 blocks out more and assume for now that the game chooses to start spawning in this location, the first mob in the pack could spawn up to 5 blocks away, meaning we could start with a guardian pack. And if we are lucky and the algorithm continues this way, we may end up with a spawn inside our water tanks. However, if the game selects this block, it can go maximum 5 blocks out and start a pack that would never have guardians in it. So here from the front we would benefit if the spawning starts only up to 5 blocks away from the monument structure. On the side though, the situation is a little bit different because all of this area can spawn guardians. So even if you go out with a starting point more than 5 blocks away, it may decide to start this pack here, and since it contains guardians, it will be a guardian pack. Individual spawn attempt in this particular location fails because there is no water, but the pack may continue and the next spawn may be inside the water tanks. So to maximize spawning chances, we have to make sure that all of the spots around the tanks may actually start spawning procedure. Let's look at this spot for example. The maximum Y value that the algorithm considers for spawning is determined by the subchunk of the highest block that sees skylight in that spot. But all we have in this area is glass all the way to Y45. So all spawn attempts will happen there up to Y48, and no spawn attempts would even reach the top spots in the tank. To include the extra Y coordinates where our tank is, we need to have a block here that would stop the daylight to go down. But it doesn't have to be a solid block or even a block that blocks the regular block light. And the perfect blocks for that are bushes. Keralis was once saying that bushes improve the looks of every Minecraft build. And what we didn't know is that they can also improve the efficiency of farms as well. And its use is very simple. Just place a bush where you want to tell the game to include these extra Y values from spawning. The bush blocks have many advantages. As we just learned, they extend spawnable space, but nothing should be able to spawn on them. They do not interfere with the redstone in any way, do not block spawn attempts in them because they are not fully opaque, and do not affect block lights, so in any light setup we have created before would stay the same. The only drawback with leaves is that they can catch on fire. If you are afraid for fire spread, you can use cobwebs. They are opaque blocks as well. Go figure. So that's the roof done to maximize spawns in the farm area. In front it sticks out only 5 blocks away from the monument structure. On the sides it covers all the spots that have blocks below Y47 and would not include for spawning Y values up to 64, so where the tank is. In this place, for instance, there is no need for a bush because the block is already at Y47, which loads the next subchunk for spawning. In the back of this farm we have the penthouse, which is high enough to include these Y values as well. Note that I kept the entire structure of the tanks at or below Y62. Technically fishes have a few more spawning spaces at these levels, but adding more non-transparent blocks above it would load yet another subchunk for spawning, up to Y80, thus reducing chances for us getting a spawn attempts in the tank area, which is not worth the extra 1 or 2 spawning layers. As a result of our spawn engineering, currently the farm can produce 50.3 thousand drops per hour, tested over many hours. If the tank was 1 block longer or 1 block shorter, all the results I was getting after many AFK hours were below 50,000, so this is optimal size for this design. And it is a great milestone to have for a farm that doesn't even affect the structure of the monument itself. I even used the wall of the monument as part of the torch tower that turns the tanks on and off, triggered from the control area at the bottom. So now let's go back to our basic drop farm with a simple tank and lava killing blades. We can improve it, oh yes we can. Top of the tank at Y62 and blocks around the tank up to a few blocks out, anywhere really between Y47 and Y62 to cover all the potential spawn attempts just outside of the water area, and the drops raise to 14,500 per hour, more than 3 times more than the design that we came up with at the beginning. In this case, I didn't use the pillars inside to create these downward water streams, since the farm doesn't even get close to reaching the mob cap, and we don't need to worry about them sinking slowly down to their demise. Just look here at this mass of fish that spawns here right now comparing to the previous design. Now let's talk about XP and the quality of the XP from different mobs. Upon death, mobs drop XP in the amounts of 5 points for most mobs, 12 for baby versions of them, 10 for blazers and guardians, and also can get a random 1 to 3 points bonus per piece of equipment. But also what is important, it is how the XP is being divided into XP orbs. The orbs can only carry certain fixed values of XP, namely 1, 3, 7, 17, 37, 73 and so on. The main limitation for XP farms is the fact that XP orbs cannot be stored, and a player can only ingest 10 of them per second. And that is the main limiting factor for XP farms. Here we have 3 mobs that are typically farmed for XP. Enderman has 5 XP, which translates to 3 orbs valued at 3, 1 and 1, or 1.66 XP per orb. A zombie pigman, because he carries a sword, can drop 6, 7 or 8. 7 is the best because it gives 1 orb worth 7 points, but on average we can get 4.2 XP per orb. Guardian or Blaze will give 10 XP, which is 3 plus 7, 5 XP per orb. So for instance, if we kill the 60 Enderman here, we will ingest 300 XP in 18 seconds, which would give me 14 levels, which caps the intake at 60,000 XP per hour. With Pigmen, I'll get 420 XP in 10 seconds, which will give me 17 levels in almost half the time. Technically, this allows to absorb just over 150,000 XP per hour, but in practice the most commonly used designs by Snow Crash lack the most important feature that Enderman farms have, which is quick delivery of mobs to the death trap, which makes us mainly waiting for the new XP to come. So in total we get less than what Enderman farms can produce. I tested both Donut Gold Farm designs, and the previous one makes about 51,000 XP per hour, and the new one 58,000, which is about 15% better, but still less than the basic Enderman farm, which is capped at 60k. Killing 60 Guardians will give me 600 XP, which is 20 levels, twice as much as Enderman, and 50% faster, allowing to get maximum of 180,000 XP per hour. Honorary mention had to be made to Dragon XP farm designed by Panda4994, Dragons drop 500 XP, but we can harvest up to 360, and this XP is dropped in 40-point batches. This translates to 2 orbs valued at 37 and 3 points. This means that we can ingest on average 20 XP per orb, which caps at 720,000 XP per hour, which is 4 times faster than the Guardian XP. To summarize, Zombie Pigment Farm donut type is slowest, but with some potential if the farm design was very different. Also, it is seamlessly AFKable, you just stand there doing nothing and collect XP. It is free to use, and what is most important reason to have it, gives gold. On the downside, it would typically be located high above the nether ceiling, which might not be that convenient to reach if you want to need some quick XP. Any good Enderman farm would be a bit faster, but this is already at the limit of Enderman XP farms, which you can't improve. Requires active user clicking, so it is not the best for to AFK. It's free to use resource-wise if you use a mending sword, and gives ender pearls, which are essential. On the downside, it typically needs to be built over the end void, which also may require some travel time to get there. Effective Guardian XP farm has potential of lots of XP, can be AFK'd using potions, which requires ingredients and brewing setups, but provides also with sea lanterns, and is located in the overworld, which can possibly be close to home base. To put this speed into perspective and a different goal in mind, we can estimate how long it would take us to achieve it with different mob and farm designs. 1000 levels in potentially 1 day of AFKing, not too shabby. With our design of the garden farm, it is relatively easy to add the XP option, and we can do it using a simple button. If we trigger it, the signal will go to the flashing droppers, triggering them only once through the half slab, which will release the water, creating water currents to bring the guardians to the center. It also triggers the water at the bottom. This shields the guardians from the fall damage and sedates them so they don't bounce around. I also covered the bottom hoppers with path blocks, which are less than 1 block high, allowing items to be picked by the hoppers below. If I would leave the hoppers only, the fixed 1.9 hitboxes of hoppers would make the XP orbs get stuck in them. Using path blocks mitigates that. You could also use the good old soul sand, but it would slow down the orb's travel speed as well. The player has a small window to throw potions through to the guardians. The window is located 3 blocks above the floor level, and the player rests against the wall 2 blocks away from the area where the guardians fall. I borrowed this layout from the Psycraft server Guardian XP farm. At this point I am switching from path to soul sand, as path cannot be placed below the slab, and any step up would hold the XP orbs. Farm can be operated individually by manually dropping a potion to the chamber full of guardians. It takes about 30 seconds for all the guardians to collect. To show the quality of Guardian XP, each batch would fix almost all your damage on the beaten up diamond armor. Almost completely fix your tool or weapon. And 2 batches of guardians will give you almost 30 levels of XP. The farm can be operated in the AFK manner by player holding right click and throwing potions at the guardians, as they are released by the dropper below the player. The rate of the potions determines the XP speed of the farm. This basic setup here consists of 1 continuous potion brewer. This particular design here, which is 3x3x5, is made by Ilmango, which brews splash farming potions. They take 80 seconds to brew, and this clock here below dispenses the 1 potion every 30 seconds. This gives 75,000 XP per hour, which is already 30% faster than a pigment farm and faster than an enderman farm, allowing to get to level 146 in 1 hour, while still being quite far from the theoretical maximum performance of the fastest possible Guardian XP farm. To speed it up, we can add more brewers and the setup with a potion dispensed every 5 seconds, allowed to reach 130,000 XP per hour, which is more than 2 times faster comparing to the donut type XP farms or maximum speed enderman farms. This however doesn't come free, as you need ingredients for the potions to run the farm. In total, in the eco mode with a potion dispensed every 30 seconds, the system uses per hour 2 stacks of glass bottles, 40 netherwort, 80 spider eyes, 40 sugar, 40 gunpowder, 40 brown mushrooms and 1 blaze rod. Most of these ingredients can be very easily obtained in very large quantities from any witch farm, where they are pretty much rejects from farming redstone and glowstone. The only issue is brown mushrooms, which can be farmed automatically, but mushrooms in nature grow really slowly, or simply chopped up using fortune 3 pickaxe. Taking down 4 of them is sufficient to get 40 mushrooms to keep the XP farm running for an hour. In the high-speed mode, with potion every 5 seconds, the ingredient requirements grow 6 times, but if you have a witch farm, you will getting most of them anyways. So it all boils down to what you need. If you want to get 1000 levels, let's say dragon or garden XP farm is the way to go. But if you only need a bunch of levels to enchant and repair your stuff, actually a garden XP farm where you throw potions individually would do the job as well. At the end, I couldn't resist to mix guardians with 2 awesome blocks, hoppers and slime blocks, to get maybe the most amusing garden farm you can build. If we have a chamber where floor is made of hoppers and slime blocks, a floating guardian can either step on one or the other. The slime block will make them jump even higher, and hoppers will make them take fall damage from that jump. Eventually, the guardian's health will dwindle, and with their last jump, they should land on a hopper, which should pick up all their drops from the guardians. Now, the drops may fly out and end up on the slime blocks, but that's quite unlikely. This method is definitely not the fastest to get guardian drops, but definitely a very cool one. The farm working on this principle can be very easy to build. Just a small spawning chamber in the middle of the monument with a water stream to transport them out of the front yard. A platform of slime blocks with a ring of hoppers around, and a glass dome completes the farm. For aesthetics, one can use carpets to cover up the floor, and we are good to go. The farm produces about 6,500 drops per hour. You could soften the map with lava a bit, but that's not the point. This is mainly to provide amusement with a little bit of drops, justifying assigning this setup to a farm category. At the end, I have a little spawn riddle for all of you guys. Why mobs spawn on one hopper platform and don't on the other? If you have your answer, please put them in the comment section. In the second and the last part of the Garden Saga, we'll explain why this happens. We'll also remove the restriction that we had in this episode to keep the monument intact, and we'll focus on squeezing maximum drops and maximum XP from the gardens. I hope you liked the video, so don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you haven't done it already. And if you think you know the answer to the quiz question, don't forget to put it down in the comment section below. And see you in the next one. Bye bye!